Hey there YouTube, Charles T back again with something a little bit different. This time it's an SGC reveal. Made a trade for a couple of these cards, and then I had some leftover T206s, so I figured let's send them all in. SGC don't really ever use them except for vintage cards. That's what they're best at, holds the most value. Compared to PSA, pretty much equal anything I'd say 1960s and earlier. So decided to use them. This, I traded that Munching Madonna 101 Superfractor Garbage Pail Kid. This is part of that deal. Figured it'd be a 4. I was right on the money with that 4. Just some rounded edges, some normal wear and tear. Centering's off a little bit, but not bad for a card from 1965. But yeah, overall, I thought it could get a 5 possibly, but I was thinking 4. But nice just having a slab, and this type of cord with the white borders just looks so good in the SGC Tux. So like I said, don't really use them that much, but for older cards I will. 1980 Ricky Henderson rookie. Plus there's no upcharge. If that would have got a 5 or 6, wouldn't have been upcharged, because of the increase in value. But that's probably about a 5, probably 450 to 500 card in that 4 condition. Ricky Henderson, nice PSA 7. I also thought that would be a 7. I thought maybe 6 at the worst. 7 was what I was thinking. Gets the 7. Iconic card from the 1980s. One of them, obviously the Griffey 89 Upper Deck is probably the other one. Don Mattingly. There's a few out there, but this is definitely one of those top ones that people think about when they think about 1980s rookie cards. So great looking card. Then we get into the T206s. So a few of these I had lying around. The last 2 I had in other cases, so I figured I'd crack them out since they weren't well known. It's harder to sell in those types of cases. This was one I had hanging around, Germany Schaefer. I do have a very large collection of T206s graded. I try to get them PSA 3 or 4 or better. Probably sell this one just because it doesn't meet that 3 at least. But the polar bear back is one of the tougher backs to find. Probably Piedmont is your most common. Sweet Caporal is your next one. And then polar bear is probably right after that. Then you get Old Mill, Sauvignon. Then you get into some of the rarer backs like Cycle and Tolstoy and things like that. El Principal, De Gaia's, those ones just carry such a premium just because the backs are so hard to find. But when you get into starting collecting some of these T206s, there's stories with the players that people haven't heard in ages. This guy Germany Schaefer, he was a trickster out there. I guess his claim to fame is stealing first base, and they actually had to make a rule about it in like 1920 because he I don't know how he did it. It's just a weird story. It's hard to explain. But he was on first. He tries to get the it's a squeeze play or something like that. So he steals second. The runner from third comes in, and doesn't come in yet. But then once he steals second, he goes back to first and steals first. So it forces them to put the attention on him and not the runner at third base trying to score. If probably didn't explain it all that great, but maybe some of you guys will catch my drift there. So what they did is they made a rule that if you already secured a base, so first to second, if you go back, sorry, I got a call, guys. So if you go backwards and you go to another base, you're automatically out. So couldn't do that anymore. But a lot of people say that's because of Germany Schaefer. So good outfielder too, I've heard. This next guy has a pretty cool story about him as well. Gets the 1. I'll show you why. Because of the paper loss in the back. So anytime you get paper loss, I was hoping for a 2, but because the rest of the card is just clean. There's no creases. Like this Germany Schaefer has a big crease here and it has a little one up there. So I was expecting a 2 or 3 there. But this one, I was hoping they'd give it a little bit better just because it presents so well. The colors are so bright and bold. Centering's not the best, but you know, with these types of cards, you expect that. The corners are decent. That paper loss just really killed it. But no big deal there. You know, like I said, I'll probably sell it because it doesn't meet that 3 or 4 that I'm looking for my collection. This guy was a great center fielder or left fielder. I can't remember which one, but the legend has it, and you know, it's obviously a myth. I don't think it actually happened, but he was struck by lightning. There was a 21 inning game. They went up in the top of the 21st inning. Somebody hit a fly ball out to him, and as he was going to catch the ball, he got struck by lightning and held on to the ball. That's the myth around Red Murray. Again, don't think it happened. There's another story that said he was in the outfield, a fly ball got hit to him, he caught it, and as he caught it, lightning struck. So that's probably the more believable. You know, it wasn't anywhere close, but it just illuminated the stadium, and him, you know, gave him that mythical figure. You know, people, you know how stories goes from one to the next, and the story just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, you know, like I said, these cards, these players all have, you know, kind of a story, and you don't really hear them that much. Especially in days without the internet, the early days in the early 1900s, 1910s, 1920s, you have to rely on papers and hearsay, stories. This card, I'm surprised, evidence of trimming. It was in a bunch of the other cards, a lot that I bought. All the other cards graded fine, 2s and 3s. Thought this would get probably a 3, but they saw something as far as evidence of trimming. But again, no big deal. Presents well. Colors are bold. They're nice. Irv Young, just a story I heard on him. He was the last guy to win 20 games on a team that lost 100 games. So back in I think his last year playing was 1910. So this is maybe his first and only card that he has. There might be some earlier ones. But I think it was for the Boston Bean Eaters. They were just so bad. They only won like 50 games or something like that and lost 103. And out of those 50 games, he won 21. I think he did it in back-to-back seasons too. So, just stellar athletes of their times. They probably pitched 40 or 50 games, and probably went all 40 or 50, complete games to get those 20 wins. So, great stories. This one, I won't show you the grade just yet. This was in a GAI old holder. It's a GAI 5. First graded means the first one that they graded, first card that they graded of this one. So Sweet Caporal, Homer and Baker. They hadn't graded any before. They graded at 5.5. So with these GAI used to be very respected in the grading game. They were right up there with PSA. They were right up there with Beckett for a while. I guess they got into financial trouble, and then they let some of their standards slip. So the earlier ones, these silver labels, they say are supposed to be pretty good. It's when the standards were high. The paper labels that they went to, I guess those ones are when the standards were bad. So you're supposed to be safe buying those. And when I was buying all these, probably about 2012, I looked into GAI, saw that, so I thought I'd be pretty safe. The old GAI holder had a big crack right here, so I figured I'd take it out of that holder. GAI still carries some prominence, but not as much as it used to. But I figured just get it into an SGC holder. And it shows evidence of trimming. So, that's to say nothing really safe out there, even though GAI has a decent reputation with those silver labels. Still can't trust those. You still gotta get them regraded into a reputable company's holder. So again, not an expert. I don't know where they're seeing the trimming or what they see to determine that. Looks pretty decent, but maybe a little bit short here. But obviously push it over, maybe it's there. I would think you'd probably want to trim that if you want to look at centering. But again, just the colors, very vibrant. You know, it presents well, so still won't do horrible on this. I did pay back in the day about $240. I was looking through my spreadsheets back then. I think about $240 or $220. I can't remember which. So I paid up for this at the time, but it's probably still worth a little bit more than that. So I won't lose anything really on it, even though it's evidence trimming. He's still a Hall of Fame player. Before Babe Ruth, he was Home Run Baker. He had that nickname. I think he led the league 3 or 4 straight years. Back then, to lead the league in home runs, it was only 9, 10, 11, maybe 12 or 13 would be the max. Guys were hitting home runs. Obviously, the ballparks were bigger. Some fields didn't even have fences, so you could just hit it as far as you want. The guy, you know, go run it, run down. Maybe it was hit over his head, just run it and throw it back in, so it wouldn't be a home run. Guys were looking more for contact back then. They weren't looking to hit home runs, getting on base, moving the guys over, you know, old school baseball. So not a lot of, you know, power hitters back in the day, but he was considered the power hitter back then. Home Run Baker. And last but not least, this guy. If you know anything about this guy, he was a nut. He was, I don't want to say crazy, but he was odd. Very odd guy. So this was in SCA was the company. It was an SCA 8, and it looks the part. The reverse got an 8, corners 8, centering 9, registration 9, I don't know what that means. Surface gloss 8, edges 8.5. So they gave it an 8. This case was massive, and they actually put their labels right on. I like the case that was in, but obviously it's a no-name company. You can't have it in there. You're not going to get a very good resale because, you know, stuff like this obviously most likely was trimmed and stuff like that. So I don't mind cracking it out, taking the chance. If it does get an actual grade, then that's great for me. You know, even if it was a 5, this would be a massive card. It's still a massive card in my opinion, even though it gets the authentic altered. They didn't specify how it was altered. I would probably say trimmed. It's very sharp as far as corners, edges. You know, it is clean as far as, you know, surface, everything on the front and back. And it does look the part of an 8. But again, they found something that altered. I don't know if it doesn't look like it was colored. They would usually put something there, so they didn't explain why. But all in all, this card presents so well. It's one of the nicest copies I've ever seen of this card. And I wish it did get a regular grade because it would just be a massive card. But this guy, Waddell, if you haven't seen the videos on him, go check out. I think it's, they call him, you know, batshit crazy or something like that. He would disappear in the off season for 2 or 3 months. Nobody could find him. And then all of a sudden they heard a story. He's down wrestling alligators, and he was in a circus, wrestling an alligator, you know, for, you know, the circus. He would get very distracted with dogs. He loved dogs. So the other team's fans would bring dogs in the stands with them to distract him while he was pitching. He was a premier strikeout artist. He had 349 was his record, and that record stood for a very long time. He did back-to-back 300 strikeout seasons, and nobody did that until Sandy Koufax was the next guy to have back-to-back strikeout, 300 strikeout seasons, 65 and 66, I believe. And, you know, he was just a crazy dude. He would hear fire trucks go by during the game, and he would run out and leave the game and go help put out the fire. He saved a woman from drowning one time. I don't think it was during the season, but that got put in the papers. He played until 1910, so this would have been probably one of his last cards ever. I don't know if he has any other cards before that. He is a Hall of Famer, and he was very dominant, like I said, back in, the early 1900s. So I think I want to say 1897 he started, and 1910 was the end. But yeah, it's just this guy, like I said, there's stories behind some of these T206s. Maybe I'll just do a video of my T206 collection, just go through some of the stories. But this guy probably takes the cake out of anybody. So hope you had fun with this one. A little bit different. Just thought I'd add in some humor into this video. And these T206s is mainly what I collect. There's other guys like Brady, Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan that I also collect. But when I started getting back into it in 2012, this is what I started collecting. So, all right, guys, till the next one. Don't think I'll have PSA video for a long time. Maybe a one card coming back next week or two. But after that, it's probably going to be September, hopefully August they get here. But I wouldn't bank on it with the backlog at PSA. All right, guys, take it easy.